Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to be looking at this. So this is Anne of Green Gables, the continuing story. So I really enjoy this film. This came out in 2000. Obviously, the last film that we reviewed for this came out sometime later. Let me double click. I'll click on Megan Fellows here. Anne of Avonlea came out in 87. So this didn't come out until 2000. So obviously there's a good long period. So the actress who played Marilla Cuthbert had already passed. There are some flashbacks. This is not connected with Ella Montgomery's stories. There's some possible connection to Rilla of Ingleside, which is Anne's daughter in the books, and her experiences during World War I. But this is very much a brand new screenplay. Kevin Sullivan, who was the creator of this film and the other previous two films, got in legal trouble with Ella Montgomery's family. And the court sided with the family because he didn't pay them enough. He didn't pay the royalties they were due for the last two films. So he wrote, obviously, many years later, a completely different film. So this does, the main characters, the actors are in fact the same. Obviously, this is much, much later. So you still have Megan Fellows, who plays Anne. You still have Jonathan Crombie, who plays Gilbert. And Schuyler Grant, who's Diana Wright. So those are the three main characters. I think you see a little bit of Rachel Lynn in here. I could be wrong. That is definitely going to be played by the same actress. So let's talk about what this story is. So Sullivan has brought up the time period as opposed to the books. Anne is originally in the books has nothing to do with World War I. She and Gilbert are much too old at that point. And I have not gotten to Rilla of Ingleside yet. I still need to get through Anne's House of Dreams in the books. I have it sitting here. And the rest of them, which is Anne of Ingleside, Rainbow Valley, and then Rilla of Ingleside. So I still have those four to actually read through and get through. So this I'm actually decently familiar with, and yes, this is my copy. And I do enjoy this film. I didn't, however, realize how the time difference between 87 and 2000, which is when this came out. But again, there was a court case. So in this story in Sullivan's universe, I'm going to talk about Sullivan's universe here. Anne has been off somewhere trying to write, and Gilbert has been in New York at Bellevue Hospital, finishing up his residency. So she comes home to Green Gables. Marilla apparently has passed. She's been renting out Green Gables, which is now a complete mess. The renters have pretty much destroyed it, so she kicks them out. And she's going to renovate Green Gables. And Gilbert comes home. They have not gotten married yet. Diana is obviously married. She has children. Fred has been working at a bank. He's very bored and he's very unhappy. The other thing is Anne, I think she might have been in the U.S. I'm not sure. But she hasn't been exposed to the war. This is like, I think it starts in like 1914, 1915. And the boys are going off to war. So she's seeing a lot of that when she gets back to Prince Edward Island. And so Gilbert gets back. They're still madly in love. He asks her to, he's been offered like a residency or something. That must be a residency. He has his medical degree. Sorry, yawning. But a position at Bellevue in New York. And she finally agrees to go with him. Apparently she's been resisting going to New York with him. So she finally goes. She gets a job at a newspaper. He's working at this hospital. You very much see when it comes to Gilbert that he's expected to play by the rules rather than being a regular doctor. So it's catered to the wealthy and to the board, and not medicine as it is. So he's getting frustrated. She works for this New York publishing house, and one of their major writers, whose name I will pull down because we see him, Jack Garrison, steals her work. And she proves it, but they don't care because he's a man and she's a woman. So she's unhappy. She's miserable. Gilbert's unhappy. He's like, I asked you to stay for a year, but I can be a doctor anywhere. And she's like, I can deal with this. And she's like, no, let's go home. So they go home, and the war is really picking up there. And he's actually accosted by one of their group mates, one of their old classmates. It's like, you need to be going off to war, Gilbert. You're one of the young men. And a lot of them are going off to war. They mentioned Charlie Sloane, who is a person in the books who actually, I don't remember what the heck he is. It is almost 8 o'clock. I am tired. Sorry about the yawning. And Fred loses his job just because they're closing his branch. He's bored. It's very obvious that Diana's husband is extremely bored. They're wealthy. He doesn't necessarily have to work. He's miserable. So he joins the force. He joins the military and leaves. And Gilbert had gone to the military hospital there on the island and realizes he's going to do that as well. So he joins up as a doctor, and him and Anne finally get married, and then he goes off. And at some point in time, they get word back that Charlie Sloane and several other of the boys that they had gone to school with have been killed. And they thought Fred is missing in action. So Anne gets with the Red Cross, gets overseas. She's trying to find Gilbert. She hasn't heard from him. She ends up running in to Jack, along with a woman and his wife and their son Dominic. And she's trying to find her husband. Jack has to leave and abandons her with Dominic and Corletta, I believe is her name. Corletta, I believe that's the name of the wife. Unfortunately, Corletta then, not too long afterwards, is killed because they're in a war zone. They're in France. It's a war zone. It seems more World War II-ish when I think, because you don't see a lot of the actual trenches. Because World War I was very trench warfare. It's not so much bombing of cities. It was trench warfare and messy stuff. And yeah, I'm not sure Sullivan knew what he was talking about, which is weird because the fact that it was trench warfare is really common. Nonetheless, moving on. So she has Dominic, and she eventually finds Fred, who's damaged, his arm's messed up. She takes care of Fred. Eventually, he gets his arm amputated, and they get back to London. So, and I think she's staying in Jack's apartment and looking after Dominic, who's a little over 1 at this point, and Fred. And then she starts working at a newspaper. And she's put in charge of helping this woman basically clean up her work. And again, this is a woman who's supposed to be writing other information about women's issues during the war. But turns out this woman she knows Jack. And Jack is basically funneling her work through him. And the newspaper man, the head of the newspaper, is actually a spy. Is actually a German spy. And they're trying to find Jack. And So eventually she refuses to work for them and she quits. And she'd actually, the people who owned the place where she was staying had turned this gentleman onto her. So it's very much implied that she knew Jack, and that he was trying to find Jack through her, and obviously she didn't know where the heck he was. She does get a message from Jack. It's like, come here, bring Dominic to me. So she sends Fred home. So, and then she goes with Dominic back to bloody France. What she's doing, taking a baby back to France. She eventually gets in with a couple of actresses. They get on a train. It's bombed. This is near the end of the war. So this is 1918. This is like in the ending days of the war. She finally finds Jack, and he helps her try to find Gilbert. And it's like he knows she was here. Gilbert has been captured. So he was captured by the Germans, and he was being used as a doctor, because that's what he is. So, and they, of course, they weren't going to not utilize this resource because they needed medical help. So they finally get to a hospital, and before this, Jack takes Anne to a place where there's this woman who's supposedly a friend of his, supposedly Corletta's family, and she turns Jack, it's like, leave Jack with her, she'll take care of him. The war is nearly over, because, or not Dominic, to this woman, Jack tells her that. Sorry, I'm mixing up names here. And he's been working, he's a U.S. spy, in France. So they're together. He's trying to help her find Gilbert. It's like, we have an idea that he's alive. It's like, I think he's alive. They finally get to this other town, and yes, and Anne runs into the actresses again, and she's up on stage, and she sees Gilbert, and they reunite, and they get on a train with Jack, and they're going home, and Jack is killed. And they get back, and she cannot find Dominic. They go back to where he was. The place has been abandoned. And so it's like, okay, I promised Jack I would take care of Dominic. So they go back to Prince Edward Island. And obviously Fred is home. The war is over. Eventually they find Dominic. And that's kind of where it kind of ends, is they've searched for him. Apparently the woman who was looking after him died of a heart attack when she got to New York. His other family wanted nothing to do with him. Her and Gilbert legally adopt him. And they decide to give Green Gables, where Diana hadn't been staying at the time, to Fred and Diana and their family. So and Gilbert basically goes to St. Mary's, and he's going to be a doctor there. And they're going to adopt. And they adopt Dominic. And that is how this ends. So what you see here in the beginning is Anne with baby Dominic, who supposedly is actually, I can't believe the 2-year-old is being played by a pair of two girls, but apparently it is. So that's really the end of that. Now, I actually enjoy this film. It is not an adaptation of anything. I enjoy how they end this story. I really do love Megan Fellows as Anne, because that is how I've seen Anne of Green Gables. It is with the actress of Megan Fellows. So this is the end of this trilogy, and with Megan Fellows playing Anne. I will be reviewing Anne the New Beginning shortly. You guys will see this next week. I will be actually reviewing it right after this, because I just seen it for the very first time. It's another original screenplay. So after these two are done, you guys will be to look forward to. You guys will be getting the reviews of The Road to Avonlea, and I will review them a series at a time, so a season at a time. So there's going to be 7 videos on that, and I have not watched them all yet. I own them. I have not watched them, not since I was a kid. So we will get there. You guys will all be seeing this. This is literally the 29th of August. So once the Anne of Green Gables is done, I'm going into Boxcar Children and then Wings of Fire. And then, of course, I'm doing all sorts of other themed months, which you can check out various videos. I will describe them, just not now. It's 8 o'clock. And I need to finish another video and go to bed because my kid is exhausting and has swim class tomorrow. So, like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Look forward to the rest of the Anne series and check out what I got. Thank you.